So, quite a lot of interesting talks about here and there. Now, again, it's getting a little bit bored, so let's try our practice session on building one more app. Now, a lot of people call this as an app, but I don't consider all of these things as an app. These are just practice session apps. But without any delay, let's try to create one more Xcode project. You can create it from here. Again, you can click on the file menu and click on the new and can create a new project. And I am expecting that everyone is really frequent in that now. Single view application, next, and this time we are going to mess around with the table. And most frequently it called as table views. Now in the next movie, I'll come up again on what are these views, because these things require an additional information about what are the views, what are the UI boards, storyboards, and all of that. Coming on to my storyboard, I got again, it is taking a little bit of time and it's usual, quite usual. It makes sure that all of our files and projects are united together and are presented at once. Now, there are a few things remaining in that, but first I would like to cover up my story basics out there, and then I'll move on to the things like what is this view controller scene, why is the storyboard square, and what are these other icons. So bear with me for a couple of moments. So here is my things, and here is my view controller. I'll get rid of this guys and this one as well, so that I get a little bit of room. So here is my storyboard. I'll also cover that why this arrow signs and all of the things are there. So right now we are good. We are having these sections. I would like to go on this bottommost pane at the right, and I'll type a couple of words of the table. Now we got a table view controller and we got a table view as well. So which one is the best and which one is that we are looking for? We are looking for the table view right now, and that's it. So I'll drag and drop it out here, and notice it allows me to put there on the storyboard. Now again, it's up to you. You want a storyboard up to here, or you can put it directly at the top corner as well. Now I'll talk about them, which one is good, which one is better, which one you should be following according to the HIG guideline, which is Human Interface Guideline by Apple. But before that, I would like to keep it just like there, and I would like to expand it a bit. So expanding it onto entire level, and I would also like to expand it here as well. Okay, looks good. I have kept a couple of lines of spaces out there. Now this is good so far. I would like to go into the inspector element. Now what I would like to do first of all is make sure that it covers up the entire screen. Now also what we need to do in the meantime, we need to set it for any of your favorite device, like iOS 5 would be good. And I would like to play that, and it is going to take a little while because I have shut down my computer, and that is why the simulator is also being down. So let's give it a time. So there is my table view. Now, although by default it looks really good out there, but it is not going to be always the case. Right now, we were being just lucky that we choose the iPhone 5, but you might be choosing the iPhone 4, 6, but nothing to be worried. We'll talk about that in the later movies, how to define the constraints and things like that. Okay, so far so good. Now let me select this one, and I would like to make a couple of changes. I'll go in the bottom mouse, the spin button. I'll open that up, and I would like to place these guides out here. Now there is a separate movie talking about all the constraints, so nothing to be worried about, and I'll add these constraints. Now notice there is a red line out there. We need to sort that out. So I would like to what I'd like to do in this case, I would like to first of all open this up, and I would like to change it to add missing constraints. Okay, that makes it everything blue. But how did I work on to add missing constraint and red lines? What does this mean? Don't worry, there is a movie coming on to that in a moment. And also I would like to change this as a 1. And once I select this prototype cell, and I'll talk about that in a moment, I'll name this anything as a prototype cell. Now this prototype cell will help you to selection of a movie, of anything that you want to be specific. Now prototype simply means here that this is going to be representative of the entire view out there in that. Now what is our goal with this movie? We just want to get friendly with building a note-taking app. Now definitely this is not at all a complete note-taking app. We will do that later on. Right now, we just want to get friendly about how to view the documentation, how to pick up lines from the documentation, and how to display the data on the screen. Okay, good so far, but still we are missing a couple of important things. Now we need to make sure that this is our first responder, and here it is. So this is our view controller and first responder. Now what we want to do is make sure that our table view is connected to this icon, the view controller. That means whatever the things are going on inside the view controller, we need to drag and drop onto the first view. So, or the view controller. I would like to make sure that two connections are there. First one, I'll make sure that it is a delegate out there. And after that, I would like to make sure that it is also acting as a data source. Now, whenever you are going to deal around with the table view, these are the must and essential concepts. Okay, I would like to bring back this guy and move on to the view controller.swift. Okay, now what is our goal with this movie? Now I'll be defining a couple of arrays or a couple of values in the array, and then I want to display them onto the view of my iPhone, and that should be looking like a note-taking app. Okay, good so far. Let's define that array as simply let. I'm using a let out here, and I will say let Harley bikes. These are my favorite ones. So Harley bikes, and make them as an array. Now we already have a knowledge about the Swift, so I'll not be talking about them again. So I'll call it as a Fat Bob, and after that it is going to be, let's just say again a Fat Boy. Good so far. And after that, let's make it a Sportster. We don't need this guy, so let's get rid of this. Let's make a couple of them as well. I would like to have a Glide as well. And these are pretty famous ones. And I would like to have one more, just Iron. It would be good. So quite a good bikes. So now what is our goal? We need to make sure that our entire array is being displayed in a table view. Now we do not understand what the table view right now is, so we need to look at the documentation. But first I want to follow the protocol of that. So how I can do that? So I'll put a comma out there, and as mentioned in the Swift tutorial as well. So we are going to have a look at the UI table view, and we want to call the delegate for that. So that is what we are looking for. Okay, I'll save that. But our class is not at all yet following the table view delegate. So once the function did load, I'll talk about these function in a moment. And there is a separate movie again for that. So what I would like to do after that, I would like to go in the documentation of the UI delegate. So I'll press my command key and I'll click on that. And it brings me on the documentation page of the table view. But the two classes that we are looking for is, I'll press Command F for that. And both of these classes are actually written in the documentation very close to each other. So I'll try to have a number of, and this is not this one. I'll move to the next one. This is not also this one. And here we go. So what we are looking for is this one, the number of rows in section and cell row for index path. So this is the one which we are looking for. So I would like to put my cursor out there, really a mouthful. Put a cursor out there, and then I'll press my shift key and I'll like to copy till here. So I'll press Command C to copy and click on this button to go back, and I'll paste it here. Okay, quite a lot of data. We need to get rid of this guy. We don't need extra comments. Also, we do not need this guy. This was not intentionally being copied. And after that, I would like to have this guy, since this is a function, and this guy. Okay, now it says the first one is the table view. How many views you want to have in your table. And this is very simple. You can see that it has got an arrow and it is expecting a return type as an integer. So on how many rows you want to work is going to depend what you are going to return. So you simply have to return in that, nothing much else. Now you could have returned 5, you could have returned 6 rows, how many rows you want to work. But in that case, I want it to be harleybikes.count. So how many bikes are there in the Harley bikes? Just count them and return it according to that. Also, we do not need these kinds of publics and all of these nasty things out there. And this needs a UI table view. Now let me go back onto the storyboard and bring up this guy. And notice when we selected our prototype cell, I make sure that I have got an identifier as a prototype cell. Now this was really done with necessity, and let me come back here. And the necessity was because we need to create a variable and pass on that prototype cell in the table view. Let me show you how this is being done. It is really simple. First of all, we need to create a variable. I'll again call that as a prototype. You can call it anything. It doesn't mean you have to call it a prototype cell as well. Nothing, you can call it anything. And this need to be object of UI table view cell. So I'll type a couple of things for that. UI table view, and this should be a cell type. So I'll call it this one. Yes. And as soon as I open up my bracket, you can see there are a couple of options. So notice we got this, which is a style as an reuse identifier. And this is the identifier that we have created in the prototype cell, because once the prototype cell is being defined, it will resemble with all of the beside tables in it. And that is going to be the identifier for us. A clean good example would be an offline and online viewers. Now this is in a table view, and online viewers have a different prototype cells, and the offline viewers have a different prototype cell, and you need to give them a different reference or different styles out there. So let's select that, and in this case I want to have a UI table view cell type, and what I can do, UI table view cell, and after the cell is being done, there should be a style as well. This one, we need a default style. Okay, good so far. And what should be the string? Now, since this is a string, and again, it's an optional, but still we want to have that. We want to make sure that we type prototype cell. Now, whatever, now this is a compulsory part that you can name it anything, but this should be named only whatever you have named your prototype cell. Okay, quite a confusing at this moment, but bear with me for a moment again. And I would like to have my prototype cell out here. Prototype cell, now this is again a bit confusing. I'll have a text label, and this should be changing the text. Again, it will add a question mark for me, and here it goes. And after that, I would like to have an access of Harley bikes. Now what I'm doing, I could have done something like this. Now simply like something, I could have done this. Now what this will do, it will change all the prototype cell, the text label of the text means it's changing the text of all the cells as something. Now we do not want that. We do not want to be printed as something, something, something in all of the cell. We do not want that. We want that we can access our array. So let's access it. So this is how we access our array, Harley bikes. We want to index a particular element. This is how we do it. Okay. And then we got one more thing. Now there is an index path out there, and it stores the NS index path. That means it stores all the cells values that we can access. So I can simply say index path, and I can access the row for it. Okay, let me summarize it quickly after writing the next line. First of all, we need to return the prototype cell. Okay, let me summarize. First of all, we have declared an array. Okay, good so far. Then we utilize this function. This function says on how many rows you want to work with. There might be 100, 200, or maybe infinite rows out there in my screen. How many on the rows on the screen you want to work at a time? I said just count the number of Harley bikes values in the array and just only work on them. Good so far. After that, I moved and I said that what should be the index path means once I'm on to the first prototype cell, or in fact the first cell in the table, what we should do. Now I'm saying, okay, once you are in that, first of all, make sure that you lay out the style as a default style, and this you should access that particular, you should only access that particular cell which is under a prototype cell, means which is under a cell identifier named as prototype cell. Once you are inside that, change the label, that is the text, change the text with the first element, and took that first element from the array and put it at the index path.row, which is an automatic incrementer and changing out on all the values, and then return the prototype cell. Now again, at first it might look a bit strange or might be confusing, but this is how we done all the prototype cell or the table view out there in entire iOS. Let me show you in a moment how does it works and how does it looks. So it's taking a moment and bring it up, and here is it. So it says Fat Boy, Fat Bob, Bosters and all of that. But here's the thing, if I haven't done this thing, let me just for a moment comment this out, and instead I could have simply put it out something like a 1. Okay, I'll space that and save that. And if I run that again, notice it is going to print the 1 in all the values. So this is how it is being done. If you put a 1 value, that's okay. It is going to print the 1 values out there. If not, if you are not going to put a 1 value, then you can access a one particular array. Now, of course, you really want to, you won't be able to write in these sections so that we can make a note-taking app, but that's again a bit tedious task that cannot be fulfilled right now. Okay, our goal was to introduce the table view to you, and you have done that successfully.